Okay, so today I'm gonna be talking about light and form. The two go hand in hand, and they're two of the most important drawing elements. So I will demonstrate, or I'll create a piece of artwork, two pieces of artwork, and this should demonstrate some of the beginner issues that I see in a lot of people's artworks. Also, feel free to send me your artwork for critique, and I'll tell you where you can improve so that you can improve as fast as possible. And tell me what other aspects of art you would like me to cover. I know a lot of people don't know the right question to ask because they've just started and they don't even know where to begin to search. So if you're lost and you need some guidance, just maybe even ask me about art that you like and how to get that kind of look, and I can tell you what you might be missing. Okay, so right here I have 3 illustrations. So a lot of people think about, okay, how do I learn how to shade? I need to learn how to shade better. I need more pencils so I can shade better. Shading is actually copying light on form. And form just means 3-dimensional shape. A cube, a ball, a sphere, any of these kinds of shapes are forms. So this is one of the things that you'll probably hear me repeat a lot of times. If you want to get better at drawing something, then you have to get better at understanding your subject. So what is your subject when it comes to shading? Light is your subject. Light and form are your subjects. No matter what you're doing, you could be drawing anime, you could be drawing realistic people, you could be drawing hair, fur. Shading is the art of copying or drawing light on form. If you were to make up a picture, something from your imagination, you'd have to understand how light works for you to make it believable. So the number one issue I find is that there's no real light here. There's no real form. This is issue number 1. So right here, what you can see is there's a ball right here. And yeah, it has basic shading. This is the dark side, this is the light side, great. But this is not real light. There's specific elements to light, which I will be teaching you, that you'll see, and you will come back to this example and it will make more sense. So here we see that the form is there. You know that it's a circle because there's an outline of a circle here, and the shading kind of suggests it, but there's no real light. This isn't how light really behaves. As you can see, there's no shadow, and I'll even turn it into this afterwards. You'll see how it can improve. Now here we have light, but not form. You see how there's just a straight line down the middle, and it doesn't express, the shading doesn't show you how round this is. It's simply just shading for the sake of having a dark area and a light area. That's another problem that I see. So I would say this person understands light because the way the shading is done suggests a better understanding of light than this one, but they don't understand form. So how does light apply to a 3-dimensional object? And now this is everything is together. This is a sphere, okay? So that means that if we were to draw lines, if you were to imagine touching it, these are some of the lines that you'd find yourself having because it's a form, okay? Now, as you can see, the way light is hitting this form is this shadow follows the actual shape here. It wraps around the object. This is when form gets to meet light. This is shading. Shading isn't just, oh, I can make this area darker than that one. It isn't just, oh, I understand how light works. No, it's putting those two ideas together. That's when something can become realistic. Now, to take everything a step further, I will be teaching you about light, and then I'll be teaching you about form. Okay. Okay, so here I have a really bad circle. You should actually practice drawing circles as a warm-up. I'm using a B pencil, but this means nothing. I don't care what kind of pencil you have. During the time when I was learning about light, I had a pencil that was way too light. It came from a mathematical set. And if you've ever used a mathematical set to draw, you know how bad those pencils are. So don't get concerned. Don't make excuses. Your pencil isn't everything. You could use a stick of charcoal. You could use, I don't know what you could use a color pencil to understand this. But I have a B pencil. It doesn't matter. So when you start, you want to define if the light is coming from here. Let's say this is the sun. If the sun is shining light on a ball, you want to think about the shape of the ball. You want to think about the form. So obviously we have different lines, and these lines are just used to express how the form curves. We want to express the curve of the form. If this was a different object, then we'd obviously have different lines, but these lines here express the curve of the object. So this whole area is curved, and this is where our shadow comes. So shadow is not just like this where you darken one side. No, there's different elements to your shadows. So here, okay. So from here, this is a basic shadow. When we start working in more detail, what I want you to start to realize is that every single object, every single surface reflects light, especially white surfaces. So if this, let's just say that this ball is on a table. The table is going to reflect light back in here. It's going to reflect light back into the shadow side. So what I want us to do is, instead of coming to erase here to make it lighter, we're going to darken around. And we're going to leave this area slightly lighter, okay? So this is already something that most people get wrong. They think it just gets darker and darker and darker until maybe at the tip here, it's the darkest. Occasionally, yes, you can have that. Occasionally you can have this. But if you really want your art to pop, then you want light. You want reflected light inside your shadows. So as you can see, we've gotten pretty dark here. I just want to, I say blend with your finger. I don't care if you're an art student and your teacher doesn't want you blending, then don't do it. But I'm me, and I care about a smooth look quite a lot of times, so I blend. You'll decide when you want to blend and when you don't want to blend. So I blend right there, and now I also like to just outline a little bit there. Right here, as you can see now, this edge is starting to have a lighter tone to it. It's lighter than here because light is bouncing back. Now, this area is going to be called reflected light, because it is the light that gets reflected into the shadow area from the surface. And if you want, you can include it inside your pictures where it may not be, to create a better design. Okay, so the next thing you know is a basic shadow, what we call a cast shadow. And it's just a shadow that's created because light is blocked. So right here, you have your cast shadow. You also want your cast shadow to help express form. So I have a round form here. I want a round cast shadow. So if light is coming from here, I want light to do this. I want my shadow to express that. So we have our cast shadow. The next element that we're going to have is our midtones, okay? Midtones. And the midtones are just the basic kind of shading that you get in the lights. So because I blended, I'm just gonna blend around. So I'm gonna continue blending around here. I just want this a little bit darker. So you wanna think about gradients. You wanna blend inside a gradient. It shouldn't be too abrupt or too quick to change from dark to lights. But you also don't want your lights to get too dark, all right? So right here, from this area to this area, you have your midtones. So now you're gonna notice this little dark line. You don't want it to be too pronounced. You want it to be able to blend, but kind of see that there's a line there. We will call this line the terminator. And this is where your shape stops facing the light. So if I have a ball here and my light is coming from the top, coming down, around this side is where my terminator is gonna be, because this is where the light can no longer reach the shape, because the shape starts to bend. The shape starts to bend under and away from the light. So that's our terminator. And finally, in this area here, I'll take this eraser of mine. You can use in fact, let me use a regular eraser. See, this eraser is super old. I don't use erasers that are normal anymore, so just have to clean it up right there and erase. I think I actually want to darken the whole area a little bit so that you can properly see that I create a highlight. And boom, you have a highlight there. And just like that, you have a much more realistic ball if you include all of these elements. So the next lesson is going to be on including light inside your drawings.